Thank you for joining us today for a performance by the Altius Quartet. My name is Nicole Cromarty, and I'm the Director of Education and Programs here at the Clyfford Still Museum. We are delighted to once again partner with the Friends of Chamber Music to bring you this special Music in the Galleries performance. The musicians have joined us here in our galleries at the Clyfford Still Museum, where we currently have one of our largest ever thematic presentations on display. This installation, The Late Works Clyfford Still in Maryland, is the first exhibition to the artwork Still created in the last 2 decades of his life. Following a pivotal move to Maryland, this chapter marks an especially fertile period in Still's work, in which he completed nearly 400 paintings and over 1,000 works on paper. While experimentation and innovation were evident throughout his career, during his later years, Still pushed these tendencies with new images, formats, color choices, painting techniques, and paint materials. It's always a treat for us to have musical performances in our galleries so that we can all experience the artwork in a new way. We hope that you enjoy this pairing of music and Still's work. Now I'd like to introduce our partner, Mary Park, President of the Friends of Chamber Music, to introduce the musicians and the program.
Hello, I'm Mary Park, President of Friends of Chamber Music. We're delighted to be partnering again with our friends at the Clyfford Still Museum and to be bringing music back to the galleries. We're so fortunate here in Denver to have cultural gems like this museum. And we love how hearing chamber music in this beautiful space really enriches the experience. One of our goals this season is to support our amazing musicians. It's so critical to give them opportunities to perform and continue making their music. I'm pleased to introduce the Altius Quartet, a group whose evolution it's been a pleasure to observe. Their diverse program highlights work primarily by American composers and ideas about the American sound. We hope you enjoy the concert.
Hi, I'm Andrew Giordano, one of the violinists in the Altius Quartet. I think the Altius Quartet has performed here in the Clyfford Still Museum for 5 years now. And we always love coming back here to perform. It's such a beautiful space to play in amongst all the wonderful paintings. And I think this is also the first time we've performed in a pandemic, so that's kind of interesting. We'll start the program off today with Valencia by the American composer Caroline Shaw. She's one of the most sought after composers today. And the piece we're playing, Valencia, is based around how your common Valencia orange looks that you can pick up in any grocery store. It's very simple on the outside, but you cut it open, and on the inside, it's a much more complicated texture. So whereas each of the parts, individual parts, has a very simple line most of the time, when combined, it's a very complicated texture and has features billowing harmonics and somewhat viscous chords. So please enjoy Caroline Shaw's Valencia.
Hi, my name is Allyson Stibbards. I'm the violist of the Altius Quartet. Next, we'll be playing the second movement of Dvorak's American String Quartet. If you're unfamiliar, Dvorak came to the New World in the 1800s and was very inspired by the music that he heard here, including Native American music and spirituals. The second movement is inspired by a Native American song, and you will hear between Erin and Gio passing back the beautiful melody. Hannah and I both have an ostinato that continues throughout the movement and is very picturesque movement. The next piece we'll be playing is Song and Jubilee by the living composer Libby Larsen. We've enjoyed working on this piece immensely over the last few months. The opening is very picturesque and sounds like a sunrise. Throughout the movement, the mood changes constantly. There's lots of different gestures, and it's quite a journey. Libby Larsen was inspired a lot by Dvorak's writing, including his use of spirituals. In this piece, you will hear references to both Dvorak's New World Symphony and Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. We hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Kennedy and I'm one of the violinists of the Altius Quartet. The next piece we will be playing for you today is actually two movements from Florence Price's second string quartet. Florence Price is an American-born woman composer. She was born in 1887 in Arkansas, and she eventually ended up going to the New England Conservatory for dual degrees in piano and organ, which I think is something quite remarkable even to this day. She also was a huge pioneer both as a woman, but especially as a Black woman. At the time, for her to accomplish the things that she accomplished, I think still her music and her legacy entirely stands the test of time. So these two movements that we'll be playing are very different, but I think there is a common thread that runs through them, at least for me. So the first movement that we'll be playing for you is a slow movement, and it's, I think, one of the most beautiful pieces in the quartet repertoire. I get to play the second violin part in it, which consists of an ostinato, which is a repeating figure, and this ostinato has a way of shaping the other three parts that I think is really beautiful. And then the second movement that we'll be playing is titled Juba, which is an African dance that involves a lot of body percussion, foot stamping, etc. And you can kind of hear that in the way that she writes the movement. We've had so much fun preparing these two movements, and in the future we look forward to performing the whole work. So here are the middle two movements from Florence Price's second string quartet.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Libby. Can you give us a little bit of background about you and your life as a composer?
Sure. I have been composing most of my life. I actually started thinking of myself as a composer when I was about 12 years old. So it's been quite a while.
Yeah.
Well over 50 years. I learned to read and write music in first grade, which turned out to be a very lucky thing because I've always written music. It's my easiest way to communicate. And so I just thought everybody composed and heard music in their head till I got to college and started to study music. And I realized that, just like I'm sure you knew early on, if you're studying music, that's what you do with your life.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So it didn't take me long in college to understand that I wanted just to compose music. I didn't want to pursue performance or at the time any other of the kinds of professions that are involved with music. I just wanted to compose. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. So I set about learning as much as I could and ended up with a doctorate in music composition. And I didn't want to teach in college. I just wanted to work with wonderful performers such as yourself. So I have really been fortunate to have been composing in all kinds of genres, especially classical music, for almost all of my life now, and I'm just very, very fortunate. And so many wonderful people. So yep, that's it. That's me in a nutshell.
Perfect. What other genres do you compose music in?
Well, I have written a great deal of opera. I write a lot of art song. I write, of course, a lot chamber instrumental music. As you know, I've written 5 symphonies, although I have 2 more in my head. I'd like to get down on paper one of these days. I've done a little bit of film scoring and choral music. Basically, any kind of acoustic live performance is where it involves classical instruments. I have written in and just really love to work in this way.
Yeah, well, we've loved performing your music. So,
Thank you.
Who have your biggest compositional influences been, like throughout your life, maybe early on and today?
Well, this may surprise you, but my 3 Bs are Berlioz, Barry, and Big Mama Thornton.
What was the last one?
Big Mama Thornton.
Wow.
Who, I don't know if you know the song Hound Dog, you ain't nothing but a hound dog.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Mama Thornton. Yeah. So my inspirations really are composers who write into the air. If that makes any sense to you, what the cultural air, the psychological air, the way the instruments work physically in the air. That's composers who work that way are composers that I really love to populate my studio with.
That's amazing. I would not have guessed when you said 3 Bs, those, because the standard is what, Beethoven, Bartók, and
Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms.
Bach, Beethoven. Oh, Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms.
You put Bartók in there. Oh, this is cool.
Bartók is my B. So.
Get it.
That's amazing. So, can you tell us a little bit about your inspiration for Song and Jubilee and the background of it?
Yes. I was asked by a group called the Apollo Chamber Players, a fabulous group of just amazing musicians, back in 2014, which seems like 100 years ago, doesn't it, with the pandemic?
Yes,
when
it does.
But they asked if I would be interested in composing a work for them to be premiered on a concert, which also featured Dvorak's music. And I was, yes, of course, very interested. I at the time thought that we really needed to. I really wanted to explore Dvorak's relationship to a fellow named Henry Thacker Burleigh, who we know more about now, although we don't know anywhere near enough about now. But Burleigh, when Dvorak was here in his American years, I think 1892 to 95, and he was teaching at the American Academy in New York. Henry Thacker Burleigh was also there, and yes, and Burleigh, who was really one of the most revered musicians in New York, African American. Yet he was, the cantor at one of the major synagogues. He was just this amazing musician, and he was at the school at the same time. So Dvorak and Burleigh hooked up, basically. And Burleigh introduced Dvorak to spirituals, all of the pentatonic spirituals. Like Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, or Come. And Dvorak, as we know in our studies in Western classical music, has been given credit for Americanizing Western European music. So I wanted to sort of open the door a little bit onto, really, So I proposed a piece, a very short piece, which is Sorrow, Song and Jubilee, but adopted the form of the piece from Czech folk music, a little thing called the Dumka and Furiant. The Dumka is a very sad, contemplative, short piece, followed immediately by a tuneful, upbeat, rhythmic beat. And this is part of the folk music of Czech music, which would have been Dvorak. So I decided to adopt that and turn it into a Sorrow, Song and Jubilee, and then explore the themes that Dvorak explores. Coming home, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, and create this. I don't know what we call it, maybe an essay on Burleigh and Dvorak's relationships and wedding of two musical cultures. Only it's through the voice of Larson.
Yeah. No, I'm thinking about the piece now because it's been like a week or so since we've recorded it, and I really that makes so much more sense as well. Of course it makes sense, but yeah.
Does it help? I would hope it'd help illuminate the piece,
Absolutely, absolutely. Even for me after I played it a few times. So was this piece for the program that you wrote it for, was it programmed with Dvorak?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
That's great. Well, we've paired it with just the second movement of Dvorak's American Quartet.
Perfect. That makes
playing them back to back.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. Well, thank you so much. This is such a treat to have you live talking about the piece, and thank you so much.
My pleasure.